Welcome everyone to a very special edition of the Comic Review. My name is Eric, and the day that possibly a lot of people have been hoping for is finally here. This week, DC finally released the most anticipated one-shot by Jeff Johns, DC Rebirth #1. This thing was first teased months ago, 5-6 months ago on Twitter and other social media platforms. It was finally fully revealed what it would be during WonderCon, that this was not a relaunching of the DC line, but a reinvigoration of DC Comics, getting back to its roots, getting back to its legacy. Still in the New 52 world, the history created from the New 52, but bringing back some of those various elements that were lost during the transition from pre-Flashpoint world into the New 52 world. Even Jeff Johns himself said that there were a lot of things he felt were missing in some characters, and I believe he cited Con-El, Superboy, as one of them, as a character that, going from pre-Flashpoint to post-Flashpoint, was just a character that was completely unrecognizable. So, not 100% sure. That means Scott Lobel's not getting any work at DC. I don't actually remember his name on anything coming out, but I believe he's the one at Superboy series. Probably should research that before I make those kind of comments. Anyway, so this book was just I think my comic book store, I didn't get there until a couple hours after the store closed, and I have my pull list was already pulled for me and everything. But I had some people saying that within an hour of the store opening around noon, it was already sold out. So that just shows how much people were looking forward to this, at least to see what DC is going to do with the New 52 world now that we're moving into the quote rebirth era. So let's go ahead and dive into this issue and let's take a look at what changes were made and what we can look forward to. So this book is separated into chapters. Again, it's an 80-page book, so each chapter is not necessarily a comic book length long, but they've got a lot of information. This book doesn't necessarily waste one page or even panel. Everything is important. There's way too much for me to completely cover in this one video. I would highly recommend you guys, if you can find it. I know it's coming out with a deluxe second printing. I guess I don't know what else new is in there. I know the cover is different, but it is going to be $5.99. But if you could catch this printing at your local comic shop or anywhere else, $2.99 is not a bad price at all for essentially an 80-page jumping on point essentially to DC, which is exactly what this is for the most part. There's a lot here for old readers, but if you're a new reader in DC wanting to see what this is all about and everything, this should be the point for you to jump in on. The book tries as much as it can to give as much history for certain elements, especially with the narrator. The narrator gets you kind of caught up on things that happen pre-Flashpoint. It gives you a little brief synopsis on the events of Flashpoint and then brings you into the New 52 world. So we're going to have quite a few spoilers here if you haven't read the book, and possibly some theories as to what's going to be happening next. And I'm going to try to, for some plot elements, I'm going to try to direct people to where I think these elements are going to be picked up. So let's go ahead and dive into the issue. First off the bat, you've probably seen it on social media, you've probably seen it on various news sites, everything. This book, one of the major elements that came out of this book, one of the major story plots that came out of this book, is the return of Wally West. So if you've been reading Flash, and this Flash series that's currently going on is your first and only glimpse at the character, and if you've been also watching the Flash TV series on the CW, you know that we have African-American Wally West. In the comics, he is the nephew of Iris West, which is how he's always been in the comics. On the TV show, he's the brother of Iris West, because you can't, with the younger ages of those characters, there's just no way to, make him her nephew. The Wally West prior to that was Caucasian and seemingly erased from continuity once the New 52 happened. When they created the New 52, they made all the characters younger. Superman and Lois Lane weren't married anymore. Flash and Iris weren't married anymore. Various relationships and partnerships and everything else having to do with that were gone. Legacy characters were gone. The only legacy characters that seemed to survive were the Robins and Roy Harper somehow. Everybody else was kind of differently when the New 52 started. Again, in Flash, they introduced a African American Wally West, despite the fact that the character had been Caucasian since his first appearances starting in the 50s. This book brings back the original Wally West, though I'm not sure with the artwork. The artwork during all these flashback scenes in the chapter 1 of this book shows kind of like a pre-Flashpoint renderings of all the characters, and like how Robin looks, how Wally looks, and Donna Troy and all those characters. I'm still trying to figure out if that is because this Wally is truly the Wally West from the pre-Flashpoint universe, or some other explanation. So we find out at the beginning of this issue, Wally encounters first. He's kind of lost in the Speed Force. He's kind of trapped in this limbo area, and he somehow, with the death of Darkseid over in Justice League number 50, he's kind of able to try to break free from where he is. So to try to help him solve the mystery of what's happened to the universe, he first tries to reach out to Batman, who doesn't recognize him, doesn't know who he is. So he's not, Wally's basically looking for someone to recognize him to use as a tether to come back into the New 52 world, I guess. He tells him to look at the letter. The letter he's referring to, for anybody not realizing it, is the letter that Flashpoint Thomas Wayne gave to pre-Flashpoint Barry Allen Flash, to give to his son Bruce once reality formed. And there is that link that somehow Barry in the New 52 world had the letter, even though it's technically a different Barry. Whatever, it's comics. New 52 Barry gave the letter to New 52 Bruce Wayne. Would have been really weird if the New 52 Bruce Wayne's parents were alive, seemingly, but that would have never happened anyway. So he tells him to look at the letter. At that point, we go through kind of a montage of the history of not so much Barry Allen, but Wally West in the Flash comics. And again, like I said before, the artwork is very reminiscent of pre-New 52 depictions of the characters, even going across like the, like how Wally got his powers, becoming Kid Flash, the depictions of pre-52. At one point, talks about joining the Teen Titans because there was a Teen Titans team before. The imagery is of, especially of Robin, is pre-52 Robin, because we know what New 52 Dick Grayson as Robin looked like. There have been various images of that. So again, I'm not sure if this is like merging the pre-52 and the New 52 worlds, but we'll kind of talk about that later in the video. Wally, while telling about how pre-Flashpoint became Flashpoint, became New 52, he says when the universe was reforming during the post-Flashpoint going into New 52, that a mysterious hand altered with reality. We knew from reading the end of Flashpoint that Pandora seemingly had something to do with the recreation of the New 52 universe, or the creation of the New 52 universe, but all of her appearances after that kind of didn't show that. You didn't really see this person who can change reality. So we find out that some other mysterious force outside of Pandora altered reality, whether or not as well as her or independent of her, we're not sure at this point what happened. But what we do know is that this being took 10 years from the universe. So essentially the Teen Titans especially took away all that time. We're not 100% sure what other pieces of the timeline that were taken, but we definitely know the Titans were taken, but then re-brought back in some other way. So chapter 1 ends, and we go into chapter 2, which is called Legacy. This chapter kind of goes through and shows Wally trying to interact with other characters that are supposed to be part of various legacies. Many things that we were alluded to during this portion is, one, Johnny Thunder, who was, again, another 1940s character connected with the JSA, and he's in a retirement home. He's nearly 100 at this point, and he's going on and on and on about having to get out of the retirement home. He's visited by Wally, who basically tells him, you need to find the JSA, you need to find the JSA, which is apparently what he's doing. So this is a clue that the JSA, the Justice Society of America, existed somehow in the New 52 world. Now, whether or not, this kind of indicates that whatever the mysterious being that stole the 10 years, he didn't just pick up a whole 10-year period and say, okay, it sounds like he's grabbed different portions of time from different eras. So basically he ripped out the World War II heroes so that way they weren't there like they were in the New 52 world. We got kind of replacements of them in the Earth 2 book and going into Convergence and everything, but the versions from World War II, we don't have them, and they were seemingly plucked away from the timeline. Only Johnny Thunder, possibly due to his connection with Thunderbolt, remembers who they were. We also see a woman has been arrested for eating or for stealing a sandwich, and it's alluded to that she's a member of the Legion of Superheroes. Most likely it's Saturn Girl, but it can be any other member of the Legion. But this is reestablishing that there is going to be a Legion of Superheroes in the New 52 world. There was a Legion book before, but I want to say, I'm not 100% on this because I think I really read like the first issue of that series, but I want to say that the Legion of Superheroes book was either a weird continuation of the pre-New 52 one, or the Earth that it was depicting was one of the other multiple Earths, but it wasn't the prime Earth that Legion was part of. So this is looking like we're going to finally establish a proper New 52 / Rebirth Legion of Superheroes. We also get some glimpses at some other legacy heroes. We get to see Ryan Choi as well as Ray Palmer, the second and first Adam, respectively. Ray Palmer's somewhere stuck in the microverse, while Ryan is working as a teacher's aide of some sort with him at Ivy University. So we also get Ted Kort and Jamie Reese, the second and third Blue Beetles. I'm not sure if they're going to establish that the original Blue Beetle was part of the timeline, but there is a couple pages dedicated to the Blue Beetles proper. Last time we saw Ted Kort, though, I believe we saw him during Forever Evil. He was in the bookend issues to that miniseries, negotiating something with Lex Luthor. I believe that's also written by Jeff Johns, so I'm not sure if this is the same one. I thought that was a younger version of Ted, but it might be the same one. Just different artists depict them differently. So we get some quick glimpses of Damian Wayne's 13th birthday, where he's apparently celebrating alone. We see Jessica Cruz, who, as of Justice League number 50, is a newly commissioned Green Lantern. She no longer is using Power Ring's Power Ring. She now has a Green Lantern ring, and going to be in a team-up book with Simon Baz. So you see a little bit of her. I believe you also see a little bit of the Aqua Lad that was introduced in Brightest Day. So, like I said, we're getting a lot of not only some like old throwbacks, we're also getting some new concepts and some things that are relatively new introduced right before the New 52 started. We also see at the end of this chapter the death of Pandora. She's in an alley somewhere, and she's making this big, long speech. She basically is monologuing to something chasing her in an alleyway, that she's had to carry the burden of things for so long that she unleashed the evil, basically saying that she was the one blamed for, as we talked about before, creating the New 52 universe, but it seems like something else had a hand in doing that, basically telling this off-camera person that the hope that these heroes have and devotion they have to one another is going to help them defeat this mysterious villain. And she ends up getting melted down in an alleyway, which apparently is a little iconic allusion to another event that we'll get into at the end of this video. But as of the end of this chapter, Pandora is no longer gone. It's kind of fitting that she was created and ends in the two bookends to essentially the New 52. So that's how this chapter of the story ends. We then move over to chapter 3, which is titled Love. It starts off with some revelations again from two other books that came out this week, Justice League number 50 and Superman number 52. One of the things in Superman number 50 that occurred was that we find out that Wonder Woman had a twin brother, Grail, one of the villains from the Darkseid War, with Superwoman's baby, who is embodying the soul of Darkseid, I guess. They're basically going to be looking for Wonder Woman's twin named Jason, because he is going to apparently be the key of bringing Darkseid back into the universe fully. We also then go to some scenes with the crime scene, essentially, of the death of Superman from Superman number 52. Various heroes there kind of mourning the loss of Superman. We cut over to some rundown motel where pre-Flashpoint, Clark, Lois, and their son Jonathan are living after their house was destroyed during part 6 or 7 of the final days of Superman. Jonathan's asking us various questions about, his super dad and whatnot, but Clark goes off kind of on his own and runs into a character named Mr. Oz, which was a character first introduced during Jeff Johns' brief run on Superman before Convergence started, the book he did with John Romita Jr. Mr. Oz gives Clark an ominous warning that his family is not what they appear to be, and neither is the Superman that died, kind of putting like a mysterious twist on their actual origins in the New 52 world, and that's kind of where we're left with that part of the story. No other clue is given. I guess they need something for the ongoing books. We kind of see some other wrongs being written with bringing back elements from pre-Flashpoint. apparently during the Superman crime scene, Green Arrow and Black Canary kind of notice each other a little bit. If anyone remembers from pre-Flashpoint, I believe those two characters were married. Whereas in New 52, they really didn't interact with each other at all. So this is kind of a bringing that loving feeling back. Insert Top Gun reference here, I guess. So there's that, and as well as another relationship that's going to the next level in the New 52 is that Aquaman proposes to Mera, kind of getting them back to a status they were at a long time ago in the pre-Flashpoint world. So again, relationships already without any outside influences being mended in this new era going forward. One relationship that doesn't get mended right away, though, I don't know if it's going to, is that Wally tries to reach out to his former wife, Linda Park. She's a reporter at the scene of Superman's death, and he tries to reach out to her from the Speed Force, and she doesn't recognize him either, which sends Wally back into the Speed Force, and he's pretty much dying at this point. It was kind of sad to me that Wally's own wife couldn't bring him back, essentially. It makes me wonder, in the New 52 world, before time was disrupted, whether or not they got married, whether or not they had kids. So it's going to be very curious as to how some of that plays out. If they're still using the New 52 world, I know they can't bring back everything from pre-Flashpoint. Some things they might have to rebuild back up and do new takes on it, kind of like they've been trying to do, but hopefully in a better way, a way more fans kind of recognize. But it was kind of sad that essentially Wally's former wife wasn't the one to bring him back into the regular world. That brings us into chapter 4, which the main parts of this chapter is kind of showing Wally's last-ditch attempts at people to bring him back. We see Captain Boomerang, which is a Suicide Squad reference. We see him briefly, I guess, like try to reach out to Dick Grayson, Nightwing, but that doesn't do anything there either. We see Cyborg. We get a glimpse of, I believe, the new character Gotham that's going to be in the Batman books, appearance by Swamp Thing and John Constantine. So we get all these glimpses. Wally, finally thinking he's going to die, goes one more time to see Barry, basically thanking him. It's very, very touching. I actually showed this scene to my wife, and she kind of just rolled her eyes at me when I told her that these stupid superhero books are making me want to cry. I didn't. That I'm going to admit to. But this scene was just very emotional, and if Jeff Johns knows how to do anything, he knows how to write Flash characters, and he knows about the bond between Barry and Wally and all the other speedsters. Now it makes me wonder if he can bring back Bart in a good way. Hopefully with the bring back of the Legion, maybe he'll bring back Bart and not have him be psychotic. We can only dream. Anyway, so Wally's saying his goodbyes because he thinks he's dying. He's, whatnot. Barry finally remembers Wally, grabs him, and is actually able to bring him out of the Speed Force, with Barry realizing, basically Barry's starting to remember everything. He remembers that there was a Teen Titans team. He's upset with himself that he completely forgot Wally. He has no idea how he could have forever forgotten essentially his best friend. But we have Barry now remembering starting to remember things from pre-Flashpoint universe. We get glimpses, I guess, from Barry's mind of some of the same scenes we kind of saw earlier, some same depictions, but the characters being more of a New 52 style than post-crisis style. So wondering again, was that art choice, or was that it was just some semblance purpose to that, why they chose those two different costume arrangements in there. So hopefully we'll find out in the next coming months on that front. At the end of this chapter, we do see Batman looking at the letter from his father, and he also sees like a little flicker, and what he finds is a happy face pin. Now, most people recognize this. I recognize this from various media and whatnot, but it is the pin, I believe, with the blood stain on it that was on the comedian from Watchmen, which, going back to other parts of this review, the person who most likely killed Pandora was probably Dr. Manhattan. Mr. Oz, that talked to pre-Flashpoint Clark, was probably Ozymandias from Watchmen. So it's seeming like, and then you get to the epilogue part of the book where you have a watch floating and on Mars and whatnot, that somehow after 30 years, DC is finally going to be bringing the Watchmen into the DC Universe, which as far as I know has never been done. Most of my DC reading, except for a couple of old school trades and whatnot has been the year or so prior to Infinite Crisis and moving forward. So I don't know of any other indications or any other instances of the Watchmen being in the DC universe, but it seems like they are bringing them in, and that at least Dr. Manhattan is possibly the reason behind the New 52's creation. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that conflict is going to arise. So real quick, to try to give some people some direction on some books. Obviously, the stuff going on with Superman, possibly the Mr. Oz character is going to be in the Superman books. I'm not sure about all the other ones, but I would definitely go in and look at Superman Rebirth #1 to see where that story's going. As far as Grail and the Darkseid Baby and the search for Jason, I would definitely go to Wonder Woman for that. I'm gonna guess that because that book is gonna on every other month tell a complete story. So the even months I think are past stories and the odd months are future stories. I'm not sure if I got that mixed up or not, but I'm sure the past stories are probably going to depict what possibly happened with Jason. I can only guess, and the future stories hopefully will be, you know, Wonder Woman's own search for her own brother and that whole story, and Grail searching for them. We'll have to see though, but I would definitely check out that. Obviously, the proposal to Mara is going to be depicted in Aquaman. I know Titans is going to be where Wally is going to be possibly investigating. I think the Titans are going to be investigating what happened to those missing 10 years. If you've been reading Titans Hunt, they've been dealing with the whole concept that the Teen Titans memories were stolen. Their experience as a teen prior was taken away from them, and it's something they're realizing. So those are some key books I would say. As far as big mysteries, big things from this book, those would be the places to go. Where the DCU is going to meet up with the Watchmen universe, that hasn't been announced at all yet. So we're still kind of waiting for that. I'm hoping that we can allude to that a little bit throughout various books, but as far as jumping into that storyline, I wouldn't do it for a while. I would probably wait maybe a year or so. With the double shipping books, they might be able to do it a little bit earlier, but I would hope they would wait for at least a year or two before we get into that. Let some of these new books, these new concepts, these new establishing legacy back into the DC Universe. I would give that some time. We don't need to keep on, like another company does, we don't need to keep on jumping, you know, creating a new status quo, like, you know, this is Rebirth and this is New Rebirth, and let's just build these stories. Let's build these characters back up, bring back past elements that make sense to the stories. Let's just make sure, DC, that we're doing this and that you're doing this the correct way this time, so that we don't have to do another crisis another 5 years from now. Let's, you know, a crisis every 20 years, that was fine. Having to do a crisis every 5, that, you know, that's something wrong. I think DC is really looking at what they did with the New 52 and the wrongs they did with the New 52, and even what they did right with the New 52, and they're trying to course correct very much. I said that in my other Rebirth videos, but even from this one issue, this one shot makes me wish that Jeff Johns wasn't moving to the television department and the movie department, but it very much makes me wish he was writing more books, especially the Flash books again, Superman, other characters. At his role as creative officer, chief creative officer, I know hopefully he'll have his hand in all these books and as much as he can, so that way we can make sure that the DC Universe is going to be back on track, because it really hasn't been for the last 5 years. So let me know what you guys think of this issue. What were some things you really liked about it? What were some things you completely hated about it? Are you excited for the direction that DC is going to be going in with Rebirth? What titles are you planning on collecting? I know I personally, most of the June books, I would say I'm getting. Those are probably the big ones. Definitely the Superman Action Comics, Batman Detective, definitely Titans. Not sure about Teen Titans yet, but definitely Titans, Justice League, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Not sure yet actually about Green Arrow. I haven't really been keeping up with the current Green Arrow series. I'm definitely trying to catch up on that in the next week or so. Maybe I will go ahead and I'll probably pick up the Rebirth issue. I'm not sure about the actual series proper. And of course Flash, I'll be picking that series up too. Just hopefully that'll have some glimpses of Wally and what's going on there. So that's some of the stuff I'm planning on picking up. Just let me know what you guys are planning on reading, and I'll going to try in the next couple weeks to make sure to do some reviews for at least the Rebirth issues, and depending on how people like those, we'll go ahead and do some more after that. So let me know in the comments what kind of things you guys are wanting me to cover during Rebirth, not necessarily the story elements, but like any big things coming out. Just let me know in the comments below. And just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode and sticking with me for however long this has been going on. I know there's a lot in this issue. It just takes a lot to, I know a lot of things I definitely glazed over, rushed through in this video, but I would encourage everyone, no matter what, to go out, read this issue. It was a fantastic one-shot, and would like to thank Jeff Johns for putting out a fantastic book. There's a big one-shot, basically reestablishing and reassessing the DC Universe, and this gives me a lot of hope that the DC Universe is hopefully moving into the right direction. We'll see when the ongoings come out, but as of right now, I'm very excited for what DC is going to be doing. And make sure you guys like the video, and if you can, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.